Melanie, it's so fun to get to visit with you. I've shared before, I love interior design, but it's such a balance when you want to keep your house simple. But if we can learn some of the principles, the tricks, it makes everything come together. Because I know you've experienced that feeling when you look at something, you're like, it's not right. Why isn't it right? Why does everybody on Pinterest get it and not me? And so I'm so excited for you to share your wisdom with us today.
Welcome to the Minimal Mom Podcast. Dawn reaches 1 million women each month with practical tips to simplify your home. Today, Dawn is joined by Melanie Zalick, an accomplished award-winning interior designer, known for her down-to-earth approach and creativity. Melanie and her design work have been featured in regional publications like Midwest Home and Axios Twin Cities, as well as national platforms such as Apartment Therapy. As an interior designer with a consult-based a la carte business model, Melanie is transforming the way people experience interior design.
So what got you interested in interior design in the first place?
Well, I spent most of my career in advertising, doing TV commercials and different things like that. So I've always been working kind of with sets and designs and storytelling in that sense. And what really got me was in 2007, I was on HGTV as a homeowner. So
really?
It was so fun. It was
Which
so
show?
fun. It was called Freestyle, and it was kind of one of their like design on a dime shows.
Okay.
And I wasn't the designer. I was the homeowner. And it was the first house that I owned. And they, the production company put out kind of a call for entries, and they chose me in my little Minneapolis home. And the designer came over, and it was kind of like one of those on-the-spot design shows, right? They just rearranged. They focused on my bedroom. And I had recently been to Japan for about a month, so I had like a lot of like Japanese artifacts or whatever. And she just like pulled it all together, and it like blew my mind. And after the show was done, and I sat back and I looked at my space and I was like, oh, I could do this, because it's the same design principles. It was just in my house versus like a TV set, you know, but she's working on a TV set. So it was just kind of like, it opened up my mind. And so that kind of planted the seed for me. Yeah. But then life happened, and I had just, you know, gotten a new job as an art director at this ad agency. And then when our business, the company I was working for was changing, I was like, you know, thinking back to that HGTV moment, and I had kind of been helping like friends and family with their houses, and people just like light up when their space feels great.
Yes.
And you know that, like when people declutter, like, wow, you know. Yeah. So I was being able to do that impact with other people. And I'm like, this is like the opportunity. If I'm going to take the leap and start something, I talked to my husband. I'm like, here's the plan. He's like, you can do it. Just, you know, be profitable in like 6 months or a year. And right away I started, I went to, I did take some interior design courses and classes just to learn what I didn't learn in traditional design school, just to be able to apply that to the 3D space. And I also did some home staging. So now it's been about 8 years. I don't really do home staging anymore, but it's all interior design. So I can help people have that wow moment.
Yeah. And you approach interior design with your business a little bit differently. So how do you come at it compared to the more traditional way of interior design?
Yeah, so I work with people that want to be a part of the process, or who want to learn about it because they're going to live in their house or any house for the next 30, 40 years, and they don't want to depend on somebody else.
So when you did the HGTV show, were you part of it, or was it kind of a like you leave and then let them do their thing and then you come back for a big reveal?
Yep, that's exactly how it was.
Okay, so you didn't get to be in on that process. Okay,
not at all. And that is actually a little bit more like a conventional designer where you meet with them, you kind of say, I like this, I like that. And they come back and they do it all for you and put it all together. But I work with people so that they get exactly what they want, and they have like full ownership and flexibility for budgets and different considerations. So
well, and then if they're learning the principles, they're learning why this works and that doesn't, then they can start to apply that to other areas of their home too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So, okay, well, this is fun. What are the biggest mistakes that we are making? Like you walk into a house, you go to a friend's house or someone else, and you're like, oh, I see this all the time. Like what are the mistakes that we're making in our homes right now?
Well, there's a couple, and most of them are super simple. Okay. But I do have to say that the majority is that people have too much stuff.
Yeah.
Which is why I love
design tip number one is to declutter, right?
It is. I mean, it is really to simplify because regardless of what style you like, if there's too much stuff, like you don't even get the sense of the style anymore. It gets drowned out.
Well, and you probably have noticed this too. You actually have to go way further with decluttering than you think. I feel like for your actual style to come through in a space.
Yep, absolutely. Because every piece of any item adds energy to the room. Like books add so much energy and color, which can be good if that's your style, but boxes and just clutter adds so much. Yeah, it just drowns it out. But one of the things that whenever I go to somebody's house, and this is probably in about 70% of houses that I go to, is people that have like wood blinds or faux wood blinds or just even the plastic blinds. Typically they're down. And people will just turn the knob and like just kind of open them, but they never pull them open. Okay. And that adds so much visual clutter because you have like 100 horizontal lines on your windows and it actually blocks a ton of light. So I was over at a client's house just recently and her house is laid out where it's like the kitchen in the middle and like a living room on one side and family room on the other side. And her whole house is just, the backyard is full of these windows. And I asked her if she ever pulls these blinds up. And she said, no, we put them in 15 years ago and they've stayed like this.
Wow.
So I went around and I opened every single one of them and all this light just flooded in. And she has this beautiful backyard of all these pine trees. And her eyes just filled up with tears. And she just kind of started crying because it's like 15 years she's lived in this house and has never seen her backyard. And she hired me because she wanted to paint all her cabinetry white to make it brighter.
Yeah.
And as soon as I opened up the blinds, it's like the house filled with light and it was bright. And, it was just like, that was a moment.
$10,000.
Yeah, exactly. At least, if not more. So if you have those blinds, like pull them up.
Yeah.
And I would say replace them, get curtains or some sort of a window treatment that is either all the way up or all the way down, not that in between. The other thing that, again, is probably in 70% of homes I go to, especially newer construction homes, is everybody's put in like recessed lights and people don't have lamps anymore.
I'm guilty of that one for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. Lamps and lighting is key to having a house or an environment that feels really good. And the reason why is it's not natural to have this harsh light coming down on top of your head. Like lighting is supposed to kind of follow like the sunrise and sunset. Yeah. And there's only like an hour or two out of the day where the sun is like on top of your head, like beating down. It's really kind of eye level and going around your head. So your lights should be kind of at eye level. So if you're standing, that would be like a floor lamp. If you're sitting, it's kind of more like a table lamp. But the rule of thumb is to have a lamp in roughly one corner of the room, each corner of the room. So a regular square room would have maybe 4 lamps, and that could be like wall sconces. But if you add even 2 lamps to your room, it will change everything.
I know. See, I don't think I have a single lamp in my house because, the kids were little for so long. We don't have a lot of space. So it kind of just seemed like extra clutter to me. So now I'm rethinking that. The one thing we did do, because we do have recessed lighting, again, we have short ceilings, we're trying to make our space feel bigger, is we have put dimmers on them. So at least like in the evening, we'll go around and like dim them all. And that actually feels a lot better than just the harsh overhead light. But I'm thinking we should probably get some more lamps.
Yeah. Now I see a lamp behind you. It's a little lamp.
Oh yeah, it's not even plugged in. I just got that on clearance at Walmart, and I'm like, it matches my stuff.
It totally does.
It has the plastic on the shade still.
One thing that makes lamps easier to manage is smart light bulbs.
Oh, okay.
You just put a smart bulb in, and it's just, you can set a timer. So they go on
Oh,
at
that's nice.
whenever the sun sets, 7
Yeah,
p.m., 8 p.m., and then they go off at 10. Like,
that's
you don't
actually really
have to
cool.
manage like going around and like
Yeah,
turning
because that's
on
another
all your
thing, right?
lights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because who has time for that?
Oh, that's a good. Okay. All right.
And then you
My
can,
wheels are turning. I'm thinking about
yeah,
it.
yep, think about it. Um, but every well-designed room, when you go into it, is going to have lamps. And part of it, even like you said, you have low ceilings. Do you have a chandelier over your dining room, or like a hanging light? Let's call it a
No, we
hanging
don't. We
light.
took it. There was a ceiling fan over it with a light. We took it completely out and just put in recessed lighting in that space.
Okay. So even when you have short ceilings, and probably more importantly, when you have short ceilings, having something coming down optically changes how you perceive the height of the ceiling. So it's going to kind of automatically make your ceilings feel like they're taller
Interesting.
when you have that
Yeah.
light fixture at your eye level.
Because we also, when we were redoing our kitchen, we had thought like, well, over the island, should we have, very common to have light fixtures that come down over an
Yeah.
island.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, and I'm like, no, visual clutter, get it out of here, and now I'm rethinking that too.
Yeah. It's interesting because if you think of like a sheet of like sheet music with the up and down of that
Mhm.
rhythm,
Yeah.
spaces need a little bit of that too.
Okay.
So when you can add that into the shell of your house, like coming
Yeah.
down from the ceiling
Mhm.
versus more pieces.
Yes. And that is something I'm learning too, is to add more architectural interest. So I don't need so many design decor pieces,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
whether it's wainscoting or some shelving or built-in shelving, not a little color in the cabinets and whatnot, so that I don't have to have so much stuff to make it still feel like it has some character.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job with your kitchen because you have like that blue island, right? So adding that color and the backsplash that you have, the white subway, gives it a lot of texture.
Yes. Hmm. Thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. There's a lot of thought that went into that kitchen. Oh
That's
my.
good. Good. It's intentional. Yeah, it's good. So pull up the blinds, add some
Yeah.
lights, and
Hmm.
then honestly adding just a plant here and there,
Yeah.
just a little
So what's so
greenery.
interesting is everything you are talking about is our houses start to feel kind of depressing over time, especially we're both in Minnesota in the winter. Ugh. We've had
Oh,
like a stretch of gray days and it's just like so sad.
yeah,
But all of these things you're mentioning, open the blinds, add some lamps, add something living, like
yeah.
some plants, like that actually brings life into our space, especially when you're talking about like the energy of our space and everything.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you can just Google the health benefits of having a couple plants in your house. And even the studies say, even if they're fake, like if you don't want to mess around with watering plants, a fake just still brings in that natural element. And then the lamps help with your circadian rhythm. So, I mean, these are like all health things that I think that when you're on like a mission to declutter your house, like it has to still feel good and
Hmm.
alive and not
Yeah.
vacant, you
Yes.
know?
Well, and McQuillan Smith, who we've been visiting with recently, she calls it like plant math because she's like, I kill plants every 2 to 3 years. Like it has a good 2 year run, and she's like, what if you just buy a living plant and you don't keep it alive forever and ever, but you just allow yourself 2 years? And I'm like, yeah, actually, that's probably about my lifespan with most plants too, is like I can keep it alive for a year or two and then just starts looking really pathetic. Probably needs to be repotted. But what if we just give ourselves permission? Like, hey, it's okay. It had a good run. It served its purpose. You paid like $15 for it. It's okay for it to be done now and for you to get a different one.
Absolutely. And you can post it on a buy nothing group and somebody will come and probably
Nurse it back
save
to
it.
health.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that. That's true because a lot of people have a hard time getting rid of, even if their plants don't look so good. So I love that
Yeah.
idea. That's great.
And the plant that I love the most that I always recommend to clients who are afraid of plants or
Mhm.
think they're going to kill them is a snake plant. I have one
Oh, yeah.
behind me,
Yeah.
but those are part of the cactus family.
Okay.
So I'm like, you know what? Just water it on your birthday or water it when you change your clocks, like a couple times a year, and it
That's
won't grow.
remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't grow really big, but it won't
Won't
die.
die. That's awesome.
It'll just stay green. It'll just sit
Yeah. Well, and
there.
you can get now those like water globes from Amazon. Those work great too. Like if you don't know how much water to give a plant, you stick one of those in and it like knows like how much So there are some tricks now, I feel like, for those of us who have not been super great at plants. That's awesome. What other tips do you have for us?
Well, I think kind of like what you mentioned about the architectural elements of a home, there's minimalism as like a lifestyle, but there's also like the aesthetic of minimalism.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people just like the aesthetic,
Yeah.
like clean white walls, like minimal anything. And I think for those people, decluttering and living that minimal lifestyle comes very naturally because
Yes.
that's what they're drawn to.
Sure.
But that I think is kind of like, well, in my experience, a small part of the population. It's 5 to 10% of the people I work with are like that. Most people like, color and decorations and feeling cozy and homey, which you can do that without having stuff by focusing on the architectural features. And that could be like adding a fun wallpaper, peel and stick wallpaper. I love. I have in my office, I have it on my ceiling so that it's like there when I want to see it, but it's not like in my visual. Super fun for a kid's room or like in a powder room to throw some wallpaper up on the ceiling, something unexpected.
Yeah.
Adding backsplashes to a kitchen is amazing what that does to a kitchen. I'm sure you experienced that when you guys put in.
It changed the whole feel. And it really can brighten up, like doing a really light black splash. If you feel like your kitchen's a little dark, I couldn't believe how much it reflected the light and made it so bright. Even before we swapped out our white cabinets, just adding some white backsplash made a huge difference.
Yep, because that ceramic is going to bounce any light that you have. So there's also some really fun like peel and stick wood treatments that you could put on a wall, like wood veneers. So there's a lot like architecturally, even just accent wall, like what you did to your island, just adding a little bit of color. But it's really looking at adding some pattern or color or texture.
Yeah.
So a pattern could be in your rug. Curtains can bring in texture.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, in curtains, you have to be kind of careful though, right? Because if that's going to be your thing in the room, cool. Otherwise, like for us, I kind of needed ours to blend in because it's not a huge space. And so they add texture, but also they're pretty similar to the wall color because I had blue ones originally and I'm like, there's just so much going on in this room. But then when I made it more of the wall color, I'm like, well, that's cool. It adds texture, but it's not the main focal point of the room, right? It's kind of like a secondary layer. And then it felt right then when I was like, okay, this feels better now.
I prefer curtains when they do blend in.
Okay.
So I have white walls. My curtains are like a white linen. Again, adding the texture and not the color. But depending on, your level, I think part of it's learning your level of how much energy you want to bring without stuff.
Yeah.
People that prefer neutral colors are going to want things that blend in and minimal colors, right? Then you pick 1 or 2 colors. But there's some people that like that high energy and patterns.
Yeah, or like in a kid's room, it can be a great way. Like curtains can be a great way to add some personality without having to add more stuff into the space. Like we need curtains anyways, so they can do double duty. So,
exactly.
But yeah, it's knowing. So how do you help women? I know a lot of women will say to me like, I don't know my design style. Like, okay, I want to pick out a rug or, I want to add some texture, color, pattern that way, but I don't even know where to start. But I do feel like everyone has a personal style and that our home is such a great place to be able to experiment with that and for people when they do visit to get a sense of like who we are and what we like. So how do you help them discover that?
Oh, that's a big part of what I do. Yeah. It's a big part, especially now because people that are on Instagram are getting kind of clouded by everything that they're seeing on Instagram and Pinterest. And I think that it kind of paralyzes people where they can't really figure out their, So I have a pretty extensive like design questionnaire when I'm going to meet with somebody. And I ask them, I start really simple. What colors do you like? What's your energy level? What kind of vibe? Happy? How do you want your house to reflect you? Like, do you want to kind of seem like you're artsy or sophisticated or formal? Like some of those words without having pictures attached, right? So I kind of dig deep on those questions. And then I have people send me pictures of what their house looks like. So I'm like, well, if they're really into like a formal look, is their house gonna support that?
Yes, sure.
That type of thing. And then I do ask people to send me inspirational pictures, and people have a hard time with that. And it is hard. But the main reason I have people do that is to start looking, like after they fill out the form and they're like, I really love the color blue. I really want my house to look formal, then they start looking at pictures that might have those elements.
Okay. So it kind of helps narrow down then for their inspiration. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then it's part of that. And then when I meet with somebody and we're walking through their house, I ask them all these questions about how do they use this room? If they don't use the room, do they want to? Or what are their hobbies? Like are you musically inclined? I recently met with a client, an older couple, probably like in their early 70s, so cute. And they live in one of those houses built in like the early 2000s where you walk in the front door and on the left would be like a dining room and on the right would be like a formal living room type of situation. And they had no furniture in there whatsoever, just hardwood floors all the way. And they said, well, this is where we do our ballroom dancing.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow. They're like, every day they do ballroom dancing together.
Oh, I want to be like them when I grow up. That is so cool.
It was so cute. It was so sweet. And we're walking around the house, but the wife she didn't like walking in the house and not seeing any furniture. Like, it's just like empty because it's where they do ballroom dancing. So we're going through the house and they do have a spot in the basement that could potentially be a spot for ballroom dancing. But they really, they're just kind of conflicted and we're talking through it. And then she mentioned that their son, who had now, moved out of the house, used to be in a band, and his band used to be in that formal living room, which was kind of funny.
Wow.
And listening to her, it was like, she's lived in this house for 25 years or whatnot. She's never had furniture in this room because it's always been, some active part, whether it's a musician or ballroom dancing. And there was something that she said where she's like, I just want to come home and feel comfy and cozy. Well, that will never happen when you have an empty living room.
Yeah.
Like, you can't walk in a house and have an empty living room and feel comfy and cozy.
Right.
So I did some measurements and we went back downstairs, and that downstairs area was actually bigger, which they need a lot of space for their ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what you guys need to do. We were going to move the ballroom dancing downstairs. We're going to get this type of flooring. We're going to do this, this, and this. And then upstairs, you're going to have a living room with furniture and curtains and art. And it's going to feel like a home and cozy. So it's things like that, like a little bit of like the things that you're drawn to, but meshing it with how you use your home, which is going to kind of put it together.
Totally. I love that. And I think for some of us, great to hire an interior designer or someone like you who can help direct that conversation. But many of us could probably talk through a lot of this with a friend too. Say like, hey, walk around my house with me. Like, help me problem solve. Like, here's what I want it to feel like. Do you have any ideas? And isn't it amazing how if we have that outside perspective, someone will be like, well, why do you have your couch angled? Like, why don't you rotate it this way? And we're like, because I literally cannot think that way right now because it's been that way for so long.
Right? It's the outside perspective.
Yeah.
And so if it's a friend, maybe a friend that's not like super close, who's at your house all the time,
yes,
right?
Right.
You see it and then, that's how, you need that outside perspective.
That's so good. Up. And where do you see, where are design trends going right now? We saw everybody paint everything white now for a while, and now we're kind of moving towards warmer metal tones and stuff. Like, what's on the horizon what are the next trends coming?
Yeah, it's so fascinating to watch the trends because things are going warmer again. Everything was super gray, everything went super white, which... It's funny, I think in the Midwest, it takes a while for us to catch up.
We're a little behind, yeah.
We still got a lot of gray homes around here. and still moving into some white, but really the warm creams, even some light beiges, a lot of wood tones. You're seeing kitchens that have like wood islands or wood cabinetry. So wood and warm tones, everything just between the gray and then the white got like so cold.
Yes.
That all the warm stuff is coming back.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the white will stick around though. Do you think just because it does make it, I see a lot of like upper white cabinets still, but like wood, like you said, it's like natural wood tones on the base. Like I couldn't believe how much bigger our small house felt when we brought in a lot more white. And I was hesitant because I'm like, we live on a farm, it's dirty, like, but it washes up fine. And our house, I think, feels twice as big now that we have so much white in it.
Oh, for sure. I love white. My house is probably like 6 different shades of white inside. I love white, but I think it's just a balance of bringing in those warmer tones to balance with white. So I have a lot of wood elements and we have wood floors. So as long as it's really about balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, do you do online consultations? I know most of our friends probably aren't in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Is there a way that people can work with you even at a distance?
Yeah, I do a lot of online consultations. Okay. Yep. I work with people all across the US. It's super fun. We can get a lot done.
Yeah, because I love your collaborative approach too. And I think that's probably the intimidating thing of hiring an interior designer is like, well, I have no idea what they're going to come up with and if I'm going to like it and how much it's going to cost and all of that. So it sounds like a really cool approach that you have.
Yeah, it really is. It's really different. And I've had such great feedback about it because a lot of people have ideas, you know, and they just want to make sure that they're making good choices, you know, or things that are going to last and be more timeless.
Yes.
And then there's people, you know, that don't have any ideas, but and if you're stuck and you don't have any ideas, you're not typically in a position to just hand it over to somebody because that's scary.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, let's roll up our sleeves and work together and I'll help you develop a design plan and then you can take it and execute it when you can.
Yeah.
However you want. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. Awesome. Well, Melanie, so great to get to visit with you. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was great.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're looking for more support, be sure to check out The Minimal Mom on YouTube too. And we'll see you next time.